Hi guys, I'm Marina, and today me and my group are going to present to you our presentation about corporate scandals, specifically about the corporate commercial bank. I'm going to introduce you guys to the topic with a little bit of history and background of the bank. Then Dani and Georgi are going to dig into the problem and the crisis itself, and Tony is going to wrap up the whole presentation with the aftermath of the event. The history. So the bank was a universal bank which served both as a traditional commercial bank as well as an investment bank. It was created by the Bulgarian Foreign Trade Bank, currently known as BO Bank, in 1994. By 1997, Corbank is one of the smaller established banks in Bulgaria with a market share of approximately only 3%. And in the year 2000, BO Bank sells 99% in corporate bank to 10 foreign firms and 1% to the Bulgarian Eurofinance. In 2002, all of the owners are Bulgarian companies, and in 2007, Corbank becomes a publicly traded company with a two-tier management system. What is a two-tier management system? It is a system where there's separation between management and the supervisors. These are two important people. The first one is the chairman of the management board and the executive director of the bank, Ordin Rusev, and the second one is the chairman of the supervisory board, Tsvetan Vasilev. At one point, Forbes magazine ranked him as the second most influential man in Bulgaria, and he's going to be important for the preceding slides. In 2009, 30% of the bank's capital was acquired by the State General Reserve Fund of the Sultan of Oman. In 2010, two subsidiaries of the Italian insurance holding Generali Group also acquired a minority stake in Corbank. And in 2013, around 10% of the bank was acquired by one of the biggest banks in Russia. By 2013, the bank already had a lot of power and influence, especially in the country. It was the fourth largest bank in Bulgaria in terms of assets, third in terms of net profit, and first in terms of deposit growth. Another important year is 2014. It's actually the most important year for the bank and our presentation. At the beginning of this year, Corbank signed an agreement with Credit Agricole to acquire 100% of the shares of Credit Agricole Bulgaria. And by 2014, Corbank was one of the largest banks in Bulgaria with an extensive portfolio of companies that it owned in partially or partially owned. It was the only bank which was investing in startups and other businesses, therefore raising its profits and powers. However, in 2014, it led to its bankruptcy, and I'm going to give the word to Georgi.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you, yeah. Now that she has given you the background, we can proceed with the scandal. And as she mentioned, it occurred in 2014. Now it's worth mentioning that in the years prior to 2014, the role of corporate commercial bank in Bulgaria's political life became increasingly evident to the overall population of Bulgaria. It's also worth mentioning that the bank's owner had major shares in large companies such as Bulgar Tabak, Petrol, Technomarket, Dunarit, and other significant companies operating in Bulgaria. The impression was that large amounts of capital and therefore of power was concentrated in one and the same circle of people, basically. So in the spring of 2014, media agencies reported there was a dispute between the leader of corporate Commercial Bank, Tsvetan Vasiliev, that Marina introduced you, and Delan Peevski, who was also one of the bigger shareholders in Bulgartabak, and also a prominent member of one of the leading political parties in Bulgaria. And this contention was thought to be over Bulgartabak's ownership. Next slide, please, Marina. Thank you. So in June that same year, all major Bulgarian media started to release questionable information about Corporate Commercial Bank and its reliability as a financial institution. This resulted in a huge bank panic as deposits were withdrawn from the bank. Vasiliev, in a later interview for Forbes, said that the true cause for the deposit withdrawals was Peevski and his entourage, basically accusing him of attempted murder. And Peevski, at least according to Vasiliev, managed to convince the general prosecutor of Bulgaria that this was actually the case, that Vasiliev has planned an attempted murder. After more than 20% of the deposits were withdrawn from the bank for just 4 days after the first press releases of some scandalous things, the Bulgarian National Bank rejected supporting the Corporate Commercial Bank through loans. And as a result, the Corporate Commercial Bank was practically left unfunctional for the next 6 months. The funds that guarantee the minimal deposit return, as in usually every country, were also unable to cover the deposits. But after all, the deposits were given back in December 2014 after what was said to be a comprehensive auditing of the bank, which Daniel will talk more detailed about. And I'm giving the word to him right now.
Right. So in order for the bank to be liquidated, it needed to be audited first. And therefore Deloitte, EY, and AFA performed that audit and concluded that CCB did not apply sensible credit policies, collateral guarantees, concealed operations, and also fake reports in front of the BNB were reported. The audit performed by Deloitte, EY, and AFA was categorized as fake and inconsistent with IIS by Vasiliev, who claimed that he was constantly being monitored by the Bulgarian National Bank before the Peevski intervention. And they never said that there was anything unlawful there. So next slide, please, Marina. Tsvetan Vasiliev was widely thought to have been the one to bankrupt the bank through a pyramid scheme he devised, but there hasn't been any concrete evidence. More evidence continued to arise. More controversies continued to arise with evidence coming in that someone had falsified Vasiliev's signature on documents that would have originally put him in jail and that the Bulgarian National Bank and government used against him. And the Bulgarian National Bank accused Vasiliev of forming a sophisticated web of legal entities to steal and take away more than 200 million leva from the company that were missing. But the owner himself claimed that there were SPVs or special purpose vehicles, which were put into place to control funding for many major Bulgarian businesses, including petrol station. He claims that the missing money came from these assets not being accounted for in their fair value, although this, of course, cannot be proven now. And this missing money was never found, but most people still believe that Vasiliev was the one stealing the money for years, since pretty much the bank began business with Peevski and many of these major Bulgarian businesses. Next slide. So Vasiliev and some of the other main investors in the bank tried to propose a plan to the Bulgarian National Bank and the government, but that was not accepted, with a reason cited being that the government had to cover around 50% of the money lost in the scandal. The National Bank and the government, though, were adamant that they don't want anything to do with Vasilyev or anyone else that was part of the scandal, and therefore the bank was officially closed. Nowadays, there have been several revelations showing that the government did not deal with this case properly, which has led to several investigations and potential lawsuits that Tony is going to tell you a bit more about.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, so just like everything else in life, this scandal is also followed by its consequences. It still has its influence in Bulgaria's finances up to nowadays. It has definitely left a mark in history. And the end of the scandal certainly didn't come with the bankruptcy of CCB. The aftermath is going on its very long way. And one major event that occurred is that Umani State Investment Fund, which was a 30% shareholder in the bankrupt corporate commercial bank, has instituted proceedings against Bulgaria in the International Center for Solving Investment Disputes based in Washington. According to reports, the action is for 100 million euros. And according to the claimant, this is the value of the cost material damage resulting from the revocation of license of the CCB, the unequal treatment of the investor, and he's being deprived of the opportunity to defend his rights in court. The European Court for Human Rights, ECHR, has ruled that Bulgaria's CCB, which collapsed and had its license withdrawn in 2014, was denied the right to a fair trial with regard to attempts to review the license withdrawal, but the court stopped short of making any binding recommendation regarding reparations or preventing a repeat of the violation. Attempts by its former shareholders and directors to obtain a judicial review of the central bank's decision to withdraw the license were repeatedly rejected by Bulgarian courts, which ruled that only the BNB appointed administrators had the right to seek such a review. ECHR found that not only did Bulgaria deny the bank a judicial review given how Bulgarian courts applied the relevant legislation, but there had been no judicial or other legal safeguards against the decision to withdraw CCB's license. The ruling said that while reopening proceedings would be in principle an appropriate way of redressing the breach, the judgment should not necessarily lead to the annulment of the decision and a reversal of its effects, rather than in an award of compensation. It went on to say that any subsequent proceedings should be organized in a way which would give CCB an effective opportunity to contest the findings which prompted the BNB to withdraw its license. ECHR dismissed CCB's claims of 5.3 billion Bulgarian leva, or about 2.7 billion euros, in pecuniary damages and 270,000 euros in legal costs. Next slide, please. Before the end of our presentation, we wanted to show you a very short video clip for your entertainment of a famous Bulgarian football manager called Emil Velev, nicknamed The Bone, standing right in front of the bank's headquarters, together with the other protesting people. In this video, the so-called The Bone can be seen in a brown t-shirt and can be heard shouting things such as scammers, pyramid schemes, cheaters, where is the banker of the country? You are hiding him. We want resignation and prison.
Какво ги бавите, бе? Мошенници! Пирамидаджи! Измамници! Къде е банкера на държавата? Криете го!
Оставката има и за ръка. Исков, излез!
И къде е този?
This is our works cited page, where we have listed all of our sources and references which we used for the making of the presentation. And that will be all from us. Thank you for your attention.